The inner join is the most common table join type that you can make in SQL Server. It returns records that have matching data on both sides of the pair of tables. Let's take a look by first exploring the data that can be found in the person table and the person phone table in the AdventureWorks database. Both of those can be found inside the person schema. Here's the person.person table and the person.person phone table. I'll write two select queries to take a look at raw data that we need to work with. The first one will select the business end of the ID, first name and last name, from the person.person table. And the second one will select the business end of the ID and phone number from the person.person phone table. When you execute this query, it returns two different result sets. The first one displays the results of the first query against the person table, and the second one down here at the bottom displays the results of the select query against the person phone table. Now, both of these tables have a relationship between them that allows you to find a person's name and phone number based off common value found in the business entity ID columns. For instance, the first person that's returned is Said. His ID number is 285. We can either scroll through the records in the second results window to find his phone number, or we can use it in the where clause to help us locate it. I'll come back here to the top to type in where business end of the ID is equal to 285. This allows us to find Said's phone number. Here it is right there. Now, if we're interested in somebody else's phone number, perhaps Catherine Apple's, her business entity ID is 293. I can easily change this query and re-execute it. And here we can find Catherine's phone number. Now, rather than running two different queries and modifying it each time, we can have the database engine do all that work for us and finding matching records between the two tables. That will return a single results window with everyone's phone number and name in a single grid. So let's start writing another query below the first two. I'm going to scroll this window down and come to line number 8. I want these same three columns from the person table plus the phone number column from the person phone table. I'll write all of their names in a single select statement. Before I add the from clause though, I need to think through these columns I'm asking for. Both tables that I'm about to ask data from include a business entity ID column, so SQL Server is going to get confused about which table I'm referencing here. So I need to be more specific about which one I want. Instead of just business entity ID, I need to use the two-part name that includes the table name. I'm gonna change this to person.businessEntityID. Technically, the other three columns that I'm asking for, the first name, last name, and phone number, will all work just as they are. That's because only one table has a column named first name and only one table has a phone number column. But when you are working with queries, it's always best practice to be overly specific about what you're asking for. So I'm gonna add table names to all of these columns as well. So instead of just first name, I'm gonna say person.firstname. I'll also say person.lastname. And finally, person phone.phone number. If the lines get too long, remember, queries are white space insensitive, so you can add additional line breaks if it helps make the statement more legible. One good technique is to break right before the commas. I'm going to press enter just before these commas and then press the tab key just to line everything up again. Okay, that takes care of this select clause. Next, we need the from clause. The first table we want to pull data from is the person table, which is in the person schema. Then we need to say what kind of join we would like to make. I want to see only people with phone numbers. If a person doesn't have the phone number, I want them excluded from the results. And if a phone number doesn't have a person for some reason, I want that excluded as well. So I only want where there is a match in both tables. That's an inner join. You can either type join here and SQL Server will create an inner join. Or like always, it's better to be more specific about your intent. So I'm actually going to type inner join. That will be very clear about what's being requested. Next, we need the name of the second table, person.personphone. Finally, we need to say which columns from each table have the matching values, or in other words, which column defines the relationship. We do that with on keyword, followed by column names that are equal to each other in the relationship. In these two tables, they are both named business entity ID. So I will say on person.businessEntityID is equal to personphone.businessEntityID. I'll finish this statement with the closing terminator, the semicolon. Now again, if these lines are getting too long, you can add additional breaks as you see fit. I'll go ahead and press the extra line break right before the on keyword and press the tab to move over. And that finishes the select statement that joins two tables together. Now let's just run this one select statement. If I press the execute button right now, SQL Server is going to re-execute all three statements that I have right here. That will open up three individual results windows down below. I only want to run this once, so what I can do here in Management Studio is just to highlight these lines 8 through 13. Then when I press the execute button, only these lines will be executed. That opens up a single results window down below, and it's a nice shortcut to know about. Now in the results window, I have all the information pieced together. I have the first and last names of each person as well as their phone number from the other table. It makes it much easier to find Said's phone number and Catherine's phone number and all the 19,000 additional phone numbers from the database. And that's how the inner join matches records across two tables. Now, there is an additional trick that you will see pretty often when reviewing queries written by other people, and that is to simplify the table names with an alias. Just like you can create an alias for the column names using the as keyword, you can do the same thing with tables in a from clause. The technique will usually look something like this. I'll give the person.person table an alias by coming here into the from clause and typing in as and then the letter A. This will rename this table to just A. Then, everywhere I make a reference to the person table, I can substitute with the letter A. I'll go and do it up here in the select statement, a.businessEntityID, and if the interests pop-up window gets into your way, just press the escape key. Then we'll do the same thing here, a.person and a.lastname. We'll also do it down here to the on section. Instead of person.entityBusinessID, I'll just name that a.businessEntityID. Now I can do the same thing with person phone table. I will come over here where we are defining the table name in the from clause and call it as B. Then I will substitute letter B everywhere I've made a reference to the person phone table. We will do that once here in the select statement and again down here in the from clause. Now the query is much shorter, and if you execute it, you'll get the exact same results as you had before. So that's just a shortcut technique that you can use to reduce the amount of typing when writing queries once you start including multiple tables in a join clause.